Before we enter the frozen ruins of Stalingrad, do me a favor. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and if you've heard about the mysterious cold deaths of World War II. Hit that like button if being frozen alive while still conscious terrifies you. Subscribe for more real military encounters that prove some cold is too deep to die from. Now, let's go into the winter of 1942. My name is Klaus Richter. I was Obergefreiter, Corporal, in the Wehrmacht 6th Army, 297th Infantry Division. What I'm about to tell you contradicts every official record of the Battle of Stalingrad, contradicts the laws of physics, contradicts everything we understand about death and consciousness. But it happened. In December 1942, in the frozen ruins of that cursed city, 12 German soldiers encountered something that shouldn't exist, something that had been frozen for weeks but was still alive, still aware, still watching with eyes that moved inside solid ice. 11 men died, froze solid in seconds, their bodies preserved perfectly, consciousness trapped inside ice that wouldn't let them die. And I'm the only one who escaped to tell what really happened in the cold, what's still happening, what will always happen when the temperature drops below impossible levels and the ice decides to keep you. This was December 1942. The coldest winter in Stalingrad's recorded history. Temperatures that shouldn't exist. Cold that killed faster than bullets. Our 6th Army was trapped in the city, surrounded by Soviet forces, slowly freezing and starving to death. We'd been fighting for 5 months. Winter had turned the ruins into a frozen hell. Our 12-man squad, Lieutenant Franz Weber commanding, Feldwebel Otto Schmidt. Myself, Gefreiter Hans Müller, Paul Fischer, Kurt Wagner, Ernst Becker. Schütze Martin Schneider, Josef Klein, Wilhelm Braun, Heinrich Wolf, and Karl Hoffmann. We were assigned reconnaissance patrol. Intelligence reported Soviet positions 3 kilometers north. Our orders: confirm enemy strength, identify defensive positions, return with tactical information. Standard winter patrol. Should have taken 4 hours. Should have been routine. It wasn't routine. We deployed at 0600 hours on December 14, 1942. Temperature was minus 35 Celsius. Bitter cold, but survivable. We'd experienced worse. Our winter gear was inadequate. Thin coats, insufficient boots, frost forming on our weapons. But we were Wehrmacht. We endured. The ruins of Stalingrad stretched around us like a frozen graveyard. Buildings reduced to rubble. Streets covered in ice and snow. Bodies everywhere, frozen in the positions they died. German, Russian, civilian, all preserved by the cold, staring at us with frost-covered eyes. Stay alert, Weber ordered. Ivan could be anywhere. This cold makes the sound travel strangely. You might not hear them until they're on top of you. We moved through the ruins in tactical formation. The cold was brutal. Every breath burned. Every exposed skin surface felt like it was being cut with razors. But we were soldiers. We'd learned to function in conditions that would kill civilians in minutes. At 7:30 hours, we found them. A Soviet position. Full company, maybe 50 soldiers, positioned in and around a collapsed factory. Defensive positions established. Machine gun nests, mortar positions, fortified fighting positions with clear fields of fire. But they weren't moving. Contact, Schmidt whispered. 50 meters. Soviet defensive position, but something's wrong. We took cover behind rubble. Watched through binoculars. The Russians were there. We could see them clearly in their positions, behind their weapons, some standing, some kneeling, some prone, all perfectly positioned for defense, but completely motionless. They're frozen, Mueller said quietly. Look at them. They're not just dead. They're frozen solid, like statues. He was right. The Soviet soldiers weren't just dead. They were frozen in position, mid-action. A machine gunner behind his weapon, hands on the trigger, eye to the sight. A soldier throwing a grenade, arm cocked back, forever caught in mid-throw. An officer pointing forward, mouth open like he was shouting an order. A soldier running, one leg raised, frozen mid-stride. "How long have they been like this?" Fisher asked. "Can't tell," I said. "Could be days, could be weeks. The cold preserves everything." Weber studied them through his binoculars. "This is intelligence gold, a fully intact Soviet defensive position. We need to document this, photograph their weapons, their positions, their strength. Command will want to know everything." "Sir," Schmidt said carefully, "those men didn't die naturally. They froze in position, all at once. That's not how freezing to death works. You lose consciousness first, collapse, then freeze. These men froze while still active, while still fighting. Something happened here, something fast." "Noted, Feldwebel. But we have orders. We document enemy positions. That's what we'll do. Everyone, advance carefully. Watch for booby traps. The Russians might have rigged their own position before abandoning it." We moved forward, weapons ready, every sense alert. The frozen Russians watched us approach with frost-covered eyes. No movement, no breath fog, just absolute stillness. We entered the defensive perimeter, walked among the frozen soldiers. Up close, it was worse. Much worse. Their faces were preserved perfectly, every detail visible through the ice that encased them. And their expressions. These weren't peaceful deaths. These were men who'd frozen while still fully conscious, eyes wide with terror, mouths open in screams that never escaped, hands reaching toward warmth that never came. "Mein Gott," Wagner whispered. "Look at their eyes." I looked, and my blood went colder than the temperature around us. The frozen Russians' eyes were moving. Not much, just tiny movements. The pupils contracting, the eyes tracking our movement. Like the soldier was still aware, still watching, still conscious inside the ice. "That's impossible," Becker said. "He's frozen solid. He's been dead for weeks. Eyes can't move in a frozen corpse." But they were moving. All of them. Every frozen Russian in that position. Their eyes followed us as we moved through their lines. Watching. Aware. Trapped inside frozen bodies, but still conscious. "We need to leave," Schmidt said firmly. "Sir, this isn't natural. This isn't normal freezing. Something else happened here, something wrong." But Weber was examining the Soviet weapons. "These are in perfect condition. No rust, no ice damage. It's like they were frozen instantly, before decay could begin, before anything could degrade." He touched a machine gun. His hand stuck to the metal. Not like frost adhering, really stuck, like the metal had grabbed him. Weber tried to pull his hand away. Couldn't. The cold was spreading from the weapon, up his arm. Visible ice forming on his sleeve, crystallizing on his skin. "Help me!" Weber yelled. "It's freezing me! Get me off this weapon!" We rushed forward, grabbed Weber's arm, pulled. But the cold was spreading faster. His entire hand was encased in ice now. His forearm. The ice wasn't forming from outside. It was growing from inside, from the contact point, spreading through his flesh. "It's so cold," Weber gasped. Not normal cold, deep cold, like the weapon is sucking heat from my entire body, like it's pulling me in, like... He stopped talking. His jaw froze mid-word. his mouth open, his eyes wide with terror. And the ice spread across his chest, down his legs, up his neck. In 3 seconds, Lieutenant Franz Weber was completely encased in ice, frozen solid, still standing, still reaching for the weapon, forever caught in that position. But his eyes were still moving, looking at us, desperate, terrified, pleading. He was still conscious, still aware, trapped inside ice that had frozen him in seconds but wouldn't let him die. "Fall back," Schmidt yelled. "Everyone back. Don't touch anything. Don't touch the Russians. Don't touch their weapons." We ran, all of us, away from the frozen company, away from Weber's frozen form, away from those eyes that moved inside ice. We made it maybe 20 meters before Schneider slipped on the frozen ground. His hand hit the ice, touched the same ice the frozen Russians were standing on, and the cold grabbed him. It spread instantly, up his arm, across his body. Schneider tried to stand, tried to run, but the ice was already at his chest, his legs, his neck. In 5 seconds, he was frozen solid, on his hands and knees, forever caught trying to stand. And his eyes were still moving, still aware. "The ground!" I yelled. "The ice itself is infected. Don't touch the ground with bare skin." But it was too late for Klein. He'd reached out to help Schneider. His hand touched Schneider's frozen shoulder, and the cold transferred. Spread, grabbed him, pulled him down, froze him in mid-reach. Another statue, another pair of eyes moving in ice. "We're surrounded by it," Fischer yelled. "The entire Soviet position is frozen, the ground, the weapons, the bodies. It's all one piece of ice, and it's spreading." He was right. The ice beneath our feet was changing, becoming colder, deeper, more active, like it was waking up, responding to our presence, reaching for us. "Run," Schmidt ordered. "Back to our lines. Stay on rubble. Stay off the ice. Move." We ran. 9 soldiers now. Weber, Schneider, and Klein frozen behind us, their eyes watching us flee, still conscious, still aware, still trapped in ice that froze bodies but preserved minds. We made it 300 meters before the cold changed. The temperature dropped, not gradually, instantly, from -35 Celsius to something impossible. My breath crystallized in the air. My eyelashes froze. The moisture in my nose turned to ice. This wasn't normal winter cold. This was something else, something deeper, something wrong. "The temperature," Wolf gasped. "It's dropping impossibly fast. My thermometer reads -87 Celsius. That can't be right. That's impossible for Stalingrad." But it was right. I could feel it. Cold so intense it burned. Cold that made the earlier temperature feel warm. Cold that shouldn't exist outside the Arctic. And it was still dropping. The ice beneath our feet was glowing. Faintly. Blue. Like it was generating its own light. Or its own cold. Creating temperature that defied physics. Creating conditions that shouldn't exist. The frozen Russians, Schmidt realized. They're not dead. They're generators. They're creating this cold, spreading it, turning the entire area into their frozen domain, and we're trapped inside it. Hoffman stepped on a patch of glowing ice. His boot sole touched it for less than a second, but that was enough. The cold shot up his leg, visible ice crystallizing on his pants, on his skin. He tried to run, but his leg was already frozen, solid, immobile. He fell. His hands hit the ice, and the cold spread. Arms, chest, neck, head. In 10 seconds, Hoffman was another statue, eyes moving, mouth frozen open, forever reaching for help that couldn't come. "We need shelter," I yelled. "A building. Something to break line of sight with the ice. Something to stop the cold." We ran for a partially intact building, 50 meters away. The cold was chasing us. I could see it spreading across the ground, a wave of impossible cold, turning regular winter ice into something else, something active, something hungry. Brawn was slowest, age, or injury, or just bad luck. The cold caught him 20 meters from the building. He didn't even touch the ice. The cold just reached him, surrounded him, froze him in mid-run, one leg raised, arms pumping, forever caught in motion, forever conscious in stillness. 7 of us made it inside the building, barricaded the door, moved to the upper floor, away from the ground, away from the ice. Below us, the cold spread. The glowing blue ice covering everything, creating zone of impossible temperature. And throughout it, we could see them. Weber, Schneider, Klein, Hoffman, Brown, 5 of our squad, frozen, conscious, eyes moving, watching us from below. And beyond them, the original frozen company, 50 Russian soldiers, all frozen, all aware, all spreading the cold that had claimed them, all waiting for more victims to join their frozen army. "What the hell is this?" Muller demanded. "What kind of weapon does this? What could freeze men solid while keeping them conscious?" Schmidt was at the window, watching the frozen wasteland below. "Not a weapon," he said quietly. "A curse, a punishment. Look at their faces. Look at the terror. They're being kept alive inside the ice, forced to remain aware, forever cold, forever frozen, forever conscious. This is worse than death. This is eternal suffering." The temperature in our building was dropping. The impossible cold was reaching us even here. Our breath formed thick fog. Ice crystals formed on the walls. The windows frosted over. And from below, we heard it. Not with our ears, with something else. A sound that bypassed sound. A voice that came from the cold itself. A whisper in Russian, then German, then both. Speaking words that shouldn't be possible from frozen mouths. "Join us. The cold is deep. The cold is eternal. The cold preserves. Stop fighting. Stop running. Let the ice take you. Let the cold keep you. Forever frozen, forever aware, forever together in the deep cold." 5 of our men already taken. 7 remaining, and the impossible cold was still spreading, still reaching, still pulling us toward the frozen company that waited below with moving eyes and frozen screams. This was December 14th, 1942. The coldest day in Stalingrad's history. The day the temperature dropped to minus 89 Celsius. The day the ice learned to think. The day the frozen company woke up. And it was only the beginning. We huddled on the second floor of the ruined building. 7 men. Schmidt, Mueller, Fischer, Wagner, Becker, Wolf, and myself. Outside, the impossible cold spread. Inside, the temperature dropped minute by minute. Our building was becoming a freezer, and we were the meat. "We need fire," Becker said, teeth chattering. "Wood. Anything that burns. We build a fire or we freeze." "Fire won't help," Fischer said. He was our oldest soldier, 43 years old, had fought in the First War, survived things we couldn't imagine. "I've seen cold like this before. 1918, Eastern Front. Different circumstances, but same result. This isn't natural cold. Fire won't stop it. Nothing stops it." "What do you mean you've seen this before?" Schmidt demanded. "In Russia, during the retreat, we found an entire village. 200 people, all frozen, not dead from exposure, frozen solid, instantly, while still going about their lives. Children frozen mid-run, women frozen while cooking, men frozen while working, and their eyes—" Fischer paused. Their eyes were moving, watching us, still aware 30 years later. That's impossible, Wolf said. Consciousness requires brain activity. Brain activity requires blood flow requires movement. Frozen solid means no movement, means dead, means no consciousness. Tell that to them, Fisher pointed out the window. Below, we could see our frozen squad mates, Weber, Schneider, Klein, Hoffman, Braun, all standing in various positions of terror, and all their eyes tracking our movement through the window, following us, watching us aware. Muller was examining the frost on the walls. The ice is growing, moving. Watch this. He touched a patch of frost. It spread, slowly but visibly, crystallizing outward from his touch point, like the ice was alive, responding to contact, growing toward warmth. "Don't touch it!" Schmidt yelled. But too late. The frost on Muller's finger was spreading, up his hand, onto his wrist. He tried to scrape it off, tried to break the ice, but it was growing from inside his skin, crystallizing his flesh. Wagner grabbed Muller's arm, used his knife to cut the sleeve, exposing the spreading ice. It looked like crystals growing through Muller's skin, not on it, through it, replacing flesh with ice, replacing living tissue with frozen matter. "Cut it off!" Muller screamed. "Cut my hand off before it spreads." "That won't work," Fisher said quietly. "The cold is already in your blood, in your veins. Cutting won't stop it. Nothing stops it. I've seen this. You have maybe 30 seconds. He was right. The ice was already at Mueller's elbow, spreading faster now, feeding on his panic, his elevated heart rate pumping frozen blood through his system. His chest started crystallizing. His neck, his jaw. "I can feel it," Mueller gasped. "My lungs, the air inside them, freezing, solid. But I can still think, still feel. It's not killing me. It's preserving me. Oh God, it's going to preserve me forever, forever aware, forever frozen, forever." His mouth froze mid-word. His whole body became ice, still standing, still gripping his arm where the frost had started, eyes wide with terror, and still moving, still tracking our movement, still conscious inside the ice. 6 of us left. "We can't stay here," Schmidt said. "The building is compromised. The cold is inside the walls, inside the air. We need to move before we all end up like Mueller." "Move where?" Becker demanded. "The cold is everywhere outside. The glowing ice covers everything. We step out that door, we freeze in seconds." Wagner was at the window, studying the frozen company below. "They're arranged in a pattern," he said quietly. "Look, the 50 Russians are 5 men. They're not random, they're positioned, like nodes in a network, like they're all connected, all part of something larger." "What are you talking about?" Wolf asked. "The cold," Wagner explained. "It's not coming from nowhere. It's being generated. By them, the frozen soldiers. They're not victims. They're sources. They're creating this cold, spreading it. Each new person frozen adds to the network, makes it stronger, extends its reach." Fisher nodded slowly. "In 1918, the village had the same pattern, concentric circles, the oldest frozen at the center, the newest at the edges, like the cold was spreading outward, claiming new victims, adding them to the network, growing. Then we break the network," Schmidt decided. "We destroy the frozen soldiers, shatter the ice, break the connection, stop the cold at its source." "How?" I asked. "We can't even touch them, can't get close to them. The moment we step outside, the cold takes us." "We don't step outside," Schmidt said. "We shoot from here. Concentrated rifle fire. Target the frozen Russians, shatter their bodies, break the network. It was a desperate plan, but it was something. Better than sitting here waiting to freeze. We positioned ourselves at windows. 7 riflemen targeting frozen soldiers below. Each of us choosing a target. Aiming carefully. "On my mark," Schmidt said. "Concentrate fire. Break as many as possible. 3, 2, 1, fire." We fired. Dozens of shots, hitting frozen bodies, and the bullets passed through. Not bouncing, not shattering. Passing through. Like the frozen soldiers were made of air. Like they weren't physical anymore. Just ice-shaped consciousness. Frozen awareness without substance. "They're not solid," Wolf yelled. "The ice is solid, but they're not. They're something else. Something between physical and spiritual." The frozen soldiers below didn't react to being shot. Didn't fall. Didn't shatter. They just stood there, eyes moving, watching us. And the cold intensified. Like they were angry. Like they were responding to our attack by attacking back. The temperature dropped again. -90°C, -95, -100. Numbers that shouldn't exist. Cold that defied thermodynamics. The walls of our building groaned. The ice in the mortar expanded. Cracks appeared, spreading. The building was being torn apart by the impossible cold. "The floor!" Becker yelled. "The floor is freezing!" He was right. The wooden planks beneath our feet were crystallizing, turning to ice, not covered by ice, becoming ice, transformed at the molecular level, and that transformation was spreading. Up our boots, touching our feet, starting the freeze. Fisher pulled off his boots before the ice could reach him, stood on his coat, creating barrier between his feet and the crystallizing floor. The rest of us did the same, desperately stacking anything we could find, creating islands of non-frozen material, buying seconds, maybe minutes. But the cold was climbing, up the walls, through the air, through our clothing, through our skin, getting inside us, starting the freeze from within. "I need to know," Fisher said. He was the calmest of us, facing death with the experience of someone who'd seen it coming for 30 years. "I need to understand what's happening, why the cold does this, why it preserves consciousness, why it spreads." "What are you talking about?" Schmidt demanded. "I'm going to them," Fisher said. "To the frozen Russians. I'm going to let the cold take me, but consciously, willingly. Maybe if I accept it instead of fighting it, I'll understand. I'll learn. And maybe that knowledge will help the rest of you escape." "Fisher, no," I started. But he was already moving. Down the stairs. To the ground floor, to the door. He opened it. The impossible cold rushed in like a living thing, visible as blue mist, reaching, grabbing, hungry. Fisher walked into it, into the cold, into the glowing ice, and he didn't fight, didn't run. He just walked toward the frozen Russians, toward the center of the network, studying them as the cold took him. We watched from above, watched Fisher approach the nearest frozen Russian, reach out, touch the soldier's frozen chest, and the cold transferred, instantly, up Fisher's arm, across his body. But Fisher wasn't afraid. He was watching, studying, understanding. His body froze in 10 seconds, hand on the Russian's chest, face tilted up, looking at the soldier's eyes. And as the ice completed its work, as Fisher's mouth froze mid-breath, he smiled, like he'd learned something, understood something, something important. And then he was frozen. Another statue, another pair of moving eyes. But Fisher's eyes weren't terrified. They were knowing, accepting, almost peaceful. 5 of us left. trapped on a floor that was turning to ice, in a building that was breaking apart, surrounded by cold that was alive and hunting. "We're going to die here," Wolf said. No panic, just realization. This is where it ends, frozen in Stalingrad, conscious forever in ice, like Fisher, like all of them. "No," Wagner said. "Not all of us. Someone has to escape. Someone has to warn High Command, has to tell them what's happening here, what the cold can do, what it will do if it spreads." He was already moving, gathering his gear, checking his weapon. "I'm going to make a run for it, south, away from the frozen company. The cold has a radius. Beyond that radius, it's normal winter, normal temperature. If I can get outside the zone before it catches me, I'll survive." "It's 300 meters to the edge," Schmidt said. "You'd have to run across ice. Ice that freezes on contact. Ice that's actively hunting. You won't make it 20 meters." "I know," Wagner said. "But someone has to try. Someone has to get word out. If I fail, you try. If we all fail." He looked at the frozen soldiers below. "At least we'll be together. Forever conscious. Forever cold, forever warning anyone who finds us not to make our mistake." He went to the window, judged the distance, the route, the obstacles. "Don't watch," he said. "If it works, I'll send reinforcements. If it doesn't, remember me running, not frozen." Wagner jumped. Second-story window to the street below, landed hard but moving, started running, south, away from the frozen company, away from the glowing ice. He made it 30 meters, faster than I thought possible. Dodging patches of visible ice, staying on rubble, on stone, on anything that wasn't frozen ground. 40 meters, 50. He was going to make it. Actually going to escape, to get beyond the cold's radius, to survive. Then his boot clipped a patch of ice, just barely. Contact for a fraction of a second. But that was enough. The cold shot up his leg. Wagner stumbled, fell. His hands hit the ice, and the freeze accelerated. Legs, arms, torso, head. In 5 seconds, Wagner was frozen mid-crawl, one hand reaching forward, face showing determination, eyes showing awareness, forever frozen trying to escape, forever conscious of his failure. 4 of us left. Schmidt, Becker, Wolf, and myself. Watching from a collapsing building as the cold destroyed everything we'd tried, everything we'd attempted, everything we'd hoped. The floor beneath us was completely ice now. Our makeshift islands of clothing and gear were freezing, becoming part of the ice, part of the network. Soon there would be nowhere safe to stand, nowhere safe to be. "Klaus," Schmidt said to me. He used my first name, not my rank, not my role, my name. "If you get a chance to escape, if any of us gets a chance, take it. Don't hesitate. Don't look back. Just run. And tell them, tell everyone what happened here, what the cold can do, what it will do." "I will, Feldwebel," I said. "I promise." "Good," Schmidt said. Then, quieter, "I had always thought I'd die in combat, fighting the enemy, weapon in hand, not like this, not frozen, not conscious in ice forever. This is worse than anything I imagined." Below us, the frozen company waited. Weber, Schneider, Klein, Hoffman, Braun, Museller, Fischer, Wagner. 8 of our 12, all frozen, all conscious, all watching us with eyes that moved inside ice. And beyond them the 50 frozen Russians. Patient, knowing, like they'd been through this before, like they knew how it ended, like they were simply waiting for us to join them in the eternal cold. The building shuddered, cracks spreading, ice expanding, our time running out. 4 men left, and the cold was climbing. Reaching, claiming, adding to the network that would last forever. The building gave way at 09:45 hours. 3 hours after we'd first encountered the frozen company. The ice in the mortar had expanded beyond structural tolerance. The walls buckled, the floor beneath us tilted, and we had maybe 5 seconds before the entire structure came down. "Jump!" Schmidt yelled. "Away from the ice! Aim for rubble!" We jumped, 4 men leaping from a collapsing building, trying to land on stone, on brick, on anything that wasn't the glowing ice that waited below like a hungry mouth. I hit rubble hard, rolled, came up with my rifle raised, looking for threats, looking for cold, looking for survival. Wolf landed near me, intact, mobile, already scanning for escape routes. Schmidt hit the ground running, experienced soldier, knew how to fall, knew how to move, already heading for cover. Becker landed badly, his left leg buckled, ankle maybe broken. He went down hard, and his hand hit the ice just his palm, flat against the glowing blue surface. "No!" Becker yelled, but it was too late. The cold was already spreading. Up his arm, visible ice crystals forming on his sleeve, on his skin moving faster than anything that cold should move, living cold, hunting cold. Becker tried to stand, tried to run on his broken ankle, but the cold was at his shoulder, his chest, his neck. He managed 3 steps before the ice completed its work. Froze him mid-stride, one leg raised, arms pumping, face showing the exact moment he realized he wasn't going to make it. And his eyes, already moving, already aware, already trapped forever. 3 of us left. Schmidt, Wolf, and myself. The collapsed building burned without fire. The wood and debris turning to ice instead of ash. Cold flames. Frozen destruction. Everything the building had been, converted to ice, adding to the network, expanding the frozen zone. "We need shelter," Wolf said. "Real shelter, underground, away from the surface, away from the ice." "Underground," I said. "The cold is in the ground, under the ice. How does going down help?" "Because the cold is spreading from a source," Wolf explained. "It's not uniform, it's not everywhere, it's emanating from the frozen company. From that specific location. If we go deep enough, far enough from the epicenter, we might get below the cold's reach." The sewers, Schmidt realized. Stalingrad's sewer system, miles of tunnels, deep underground. If we can reach an access point, get below the frozen zone, we might survive. It was a theory, desperate, uncertain, but better than staying on the surface where the cold hunted us. Better than standing still waiting to freeze. "Nearest access point?" I asked. Schmidt checked his map. 200 meters west, pre-war maintenance entrance. Should still be accessible, but we'd have to cross the frozen zone, cross the ice, cross through the area where the cold is strongest. "Then we move fast," Wolf said. "Don't stop, don't touch anything. Head down, weapons ready, maximum speed. We don't fight the cold, we outrun it." We moved out, 3 German soldiers, running through frozen Stalingrad, past our frozen comrades, past the frozen Russians, past the glowing ice that reached for us with invisible hands. The cold intensified as we ran, dropped to levels that shouldn't exist. -110 Celsius, -120, numbers beyond any recorded temperature. Cold that turned air into liquid. That made breathing painful. That made each heartbeat feel like it might freeze mid-pump. My lungs burned. Not from heat, from cold. Each breath was agony. Each exhale created clouds of frost that fell like snow. My eyelashes froze together. I had to manually pull them apart to keep my eyes open. Keep seeing. Keep running. Wolf was fastest. younger, stronger, pulling ahead. Schmidt and I struggled to keep pace. Our winter gear was inadequate, our boots insufficient. Our bodies pushed beyond human limits. We were halfway to the sewer entrance when Wolf stopped. Just stopped, stood still, looking at something we couldn't see. "Wolf!" Schmidt yelled. "Keep moving! Don't stop!" But Wolf wasn't responding. He was staring at the ice beneath his feet, at patterns in the frost, at something only he could see. "Oh," Wolf said quietly. "Oh, I understand now." Fisher was right. It's not a weapon. It's not an accident. It's a punishment, a curse. Look at the ice. Look at the patterns. They're words. They're messages. From the frozen Russians. They're telling us what happened, why they're frozen, what they did. "Wolf, we don't have time," I yelled. "We need to move." But Wolf was kneeling, running his fingers along the ice, reading, understanding. They were ordered to execute civilians, a whole village. Women and children, they refused, mutinied, and this was their punishment. Frozen alive, conscious forever, forced to watch, forced to remember, forced to feel the cold for eternity as penance for their refusal to commit atrocity. "That's impossible," Schmidt said. "Who could create a punishment like this? Who has that power?" "Their commander," Wolf said, still reading. "A man who dealt with dark things, old things, Russian things. He called the cold down on them, summoned it, bound them to it, made them generators of eternal winter. And now they're spreading it, not out of malice, out of loneliness. They need others to share their punishment. Need others to understand, need—" The ice beneath Wolf's fingers started glowing brighter, responding to his touch, to his understanding, to his knowledge of the truth. And the cold grabbed him, not slowly, instantly. Wolf's entire body turned to ice in 1 second. No gradual spread, just instant transformation. One moment alive, next moment frozen, caught forever in his kneeling position. Forever reading the messages in the ice, forever understanding the curse. 2 of us left, Schmidt and myself, 50 meters from the sewer entrance, 50 meters from possible salvation. "Run," Schmidt ordered, and we ran, sprinted, pushed our frozen bodies beyond exhaustion, beyond pain, beyond fear, running on pure survival instinct. 40 meters, 30, 20. The sewer entrance was visible, a metal grate, covered in ice but intact. Accessible, promising depth, promising escape from the surface cold. 10 meters, 5. The cold surged. Like it knew we were escaping, like it was making a final attempt to claim us. A wave of impossible temperature, moving faster than we could run, catching up, reaching. "Klaus, go!" Schmidt stopped running, turned, put himself between me and the cold. "I'll hold it. Get to the sewers, get below, survive. Tell them what happened. Tell them what we found. Tell them—" The cold hit Schmidt. Full force. Instant freezing. But he'd positioned himself deliberately. Became a barrier. A frozen shield. Blocking the cold's direct path to me, giving me 3 seconds, maybe 4. Just enough time to reach the grate, to pull it open, to drop down into darkness. I fell. Didn't climb. Didn't descend carefully, just fell. Into the sewer system. Away from the surface, away from the cold, away from Schmidt's frozen form that watched me escape with moving eyes that held no regret. Only determination. Only the satisfaction of knowing his sacrifice mattered. I hit water, freezing water but liquid, not ice. Below the cold's reach, below the frozen zone. I was waist-deep in sewage, in darkness, in cold that was brutal but survivable, normal cold, not the impossible cold, not the living cold, not the cold that preserved consciousness. Above me, through the grate, I could see them. All of them. Weber, Schneider, Klein, Hoffman, Braun, Mueller, Fischer, Wagner, Becker, Wolf, Schmidt. 11 of my 12-man squad, all frozen, all conscious, all watching me escape. And beyond them, the 50 frozen Russians, patient, eternal, adding my comrades to their network, spreading their punishment, sharing their curse. I stayed in the sewers for 6 hours, waiting for the cold to dissipate, waiting for the temperature to return to normal winter levels, waiting to see if I would survive or if the cold would find me even here, even underground, even in water. But it didn't. The cold stayed on the surface, stayed with the frozen company, stayed in the zone where it had been summoned, where it had been bound, where it would remain forever. When I finally emerged, the temperature was minus 35 Celsius. Normal winter cold. Brutal, but survivable. The impossible cold was gone, retreated, waiting for the next victims to wander into its radius, waiting for the next soldiers to touch its ice, waiting to add more consciousnesses to its eternal network. I made it back to German lines at 1830 hours. Alone, the only survivor of a 12-man patrol. I reported what I'd seen, what had happened, what was still out there in the frozen ruins. They didn't believe me, thought I was suffering from exposure, from hypothermia, from trauma. They sent me to the medical tent, gave me hot food, warm clothes, treatment for frostbite, told me I was lucky to be alive. But I wasn't lucky. I was cursed. Cursed with knowledge, cursed with memory, cursed with the sight of 11 frozen faces, 11 pairs of eyes that still moved, still watched, still waited for me to join them. And I knew the truth that no one wanted to hear. This wasn't isolated. This wasn't unique. Wolf had been right. This was a curse, a punishment. And if it could happen once, it could happen again, could be summoned again, could be used again, against anyone, anywhere, by anyone who knew the old ways, the dark ways, the ways that called down cold that didn't let you die. 11 frozen German soldiers, 50 frozen Russian soldiers, all conscious, all aware, all trapped forever in ice that would never melt, never release them, never let them rest. And somewhere in the ruins of Stalingrad, they're still there. Still frozen, still watching with eyes that move inside ice, still waiting for the next patrol, the next soldier, the next victim to wander into their frozen domain and join the eternal cold. Forever. I'm writing this in 2024. 82 years after that day in Stalingrad. I'm 97 years old now. The last living witness of what happened to the frozen company. The last person who knows the truth about that impossible cold. And I'm running out of time to tell this story. The official records say our patrol encountered enemy action. Heavy casualties. 11 men killed in combat. 1 survivor. Standard Wehrmacht report. Filed, archived, forgotten. But that's not what happened. That's not the truth. And the truth matters because the frozen company is still there, still conscious, still waiting, and the cold they generate isn't gone, it's dormant, waiting to be triggered again, waiting for the next war, the next conflict, the next soldiers to wander into its radius and join the eternal freeze. Let me tell you what happened after I escaped, after I survived, after I became the only living person who knew what lurked in the ruins of Stalingrad. The Wehrmacht didn't believe me. They called it hypothermia-induced delusion, combat stress, trauma. They sent me to the rear for psychiatric evaluation. 3 doctors examined me. All concluded I was suffering from severe psychological breakdown. They recommended I be discharged, sent home, away from the Eastern Front, away from the cold. But I wasn't crazy. I knew what I'd seen, what I'd experienced, and I had proof. Physical proof they couldn't dismiss. My right hand, the hand I'd used to grab the sewer grate, the hand that had touched the edge of the frozen zone for just a fraction of a second. That hand was different, changed. The fingers moved normally, the muscles worked, but the skin was crystalline, not frostbitten, crystallized, turned partially to ice at the molecular level. Frozen, but still alive. Still functional, still mine, but also something else. The doctors couldn't explain it. X-rays showed normal bone structure, normal tissue. But the temperature readings, my right hand was 3 degrees colder than my left. Always. Permanently. Like part of the impossible cold had grabbed me, marked me, claimed a piece of me as a reminder of what waited in the frozen ruins. They discharged me in January 1943. Medical discharge. Unfit for service. I was sent home to Bavaria, away from the war, away from the cold. But you can't escape what you've seen, what you know, what you've become part of. I tried to warn people, wrote letters to high command, to military intelligence, to anyone who would listen. Tried to explain what was waiting in Stalingrad, what would happen if the Soviets advanced, if they occupied those ruins, if they found the frozen company. No one listened, no one believed. One discharged soldier with a frozen hand and impossible stories. They thought I was mad, traumatized, unable to accept the reality of what had happened to my squad. But I knew the truth, and I wasn't the only one. In 1945, after Germany's surrender, I found records. Soviet military records, reports from their advance through Stalingrad, and buried in those reports were accounts, stories, incidents. A Soviet patrol, 12 men, disappeared in the ruins, found 3 days later. Frozen solid, eyes moving, conscious but unable to communicate, unable to move, unable to do anything except watch as their comrades tried to save them, tried to thaw them, tried to break the ice. They couldn't. The ice wouldn't break, wouldn't melt. Even blowtorches had no effect. The frozen soldiers stayed frozen, stayed conscious, and the Soviets, practical people that they were, decided to leave them there. Sealed the area, declared it structurally unstable, posted guards to keep civilians away. But I knew what they'd really found. They'd found my squad, my frozen comrades, and they'd added 12 more to the network. 12 Soviet soldiers who tried to save the German frozen and become frozen themselves, adding to the cold, extending its reach, spreading the curse. In 1959, something else happened. The Dyatlov Pass incident. 9 Soviet hikers died in the Ural Mountains. February, middle of winter. Their tent was torn open from the inside. They'd fled into the cold, wearing minimal clothing. Some were found with severe internal injuries but no external trauma. And their bodies, the bodies showed unusual behavior. Some were more radioactive than they should be. Some had missing body parts. And their eyes, the eyes were described as unnaturally preserved. The official explanation was unknown compelling force. Something made 9 experienced hikers tear open their tent in -30 Celsius and run into the wilderness. Something scared them so badly they chose freezing to death over staying in their tent. But I knew what they'd found. I knew what had scared them. They'd encountered cold that shouldn't exist, cold that hunted, cold that preserved consciousness. Maybe a patrol of the frozen soldiers. Maybe a spreading zone. Maybe just a touch of the same curse that haunted Stalingrad. And no one connected it. No one saw the pattern. Because who would believe it? Who would accept that there's cold in this world that doesn't follow physical laws? Cold that preserves consciousness? Cold that spreads through touch and creates networks of frozen awareness. Over the decades, I've tracked similar incidents, collected reports, built a database of unexplained cold deaths, bodies found frozen in impossible positions, bodies preserved beyond natural explanation, bodies with eyes that witnesses swore were moving, watching, aware. 1963. 6 soldiers frozen in Alaska. Training exercise gone wrong. Found positioned like sentries. Eyes open. 1978. An entire research station in Antarctica. 12 scientists, all frozen, all positioned like they were running towards something, or away from something. 1991. Russian military patrol in Siberia. Disappeared during winter exercises, found frozen in a circle, facing inward, like they were protecting something, or trapped by something. 2003. Mountaineering expedition in the Himalayas. 7 climbers. Frozen at an altitude where they should have been acclimatized, positioned reaching upward, like they were trying to climb out of something, all of them showing the same characteristics: instant freezing, impossible preservation, position suggesting conscious awareness during the freeze, and in some cases witness reports of eyes that moved, of consciousness trapped in ice. The pattern is clear. The curse is spreading, slowly, through cold regions, through winter, through places where temperature drops low enough, through conditions where the impossible cold can manifest, can hunt, can claim new victims, and each new victim adds to the network, makes it stronger, extends its reach, creates new nodes of frozen consciousness that wait in the cold for others to join them. I'm 97 years old. My right hand is still 3 degrees colder than my left. Still crystalline, still marked by the touch of the impossible cold. And I can feel them, all of them. The 11 members of my squad, the 50 original Russian frozen, the 12 Soviet rescuers, the 9 Dyatlov hikers, the 6 Alaskan soldiers, the 12 Antarctic scientists, the Russian patrol, the Himalayan climbers, hundreds more I haven't documented, thousands more I don't know about, all frozen, all conscious, all connected through the network of impossible cold, all waiting, all watching, all reaching through the ice for the next victim, the next addition, the next consciousness to join their eternal frozen existence. And I can feel them calling through my crystallized hand, through the connection established in Stalingrad 82 years ago, calling me to join them, to complete the circuit, to add myself to the network, to finally freeze and become what I've always been destined to become, part of the eternal cold. My doctors say I have weeks left, maybe days. Cancer, multiple organs failing. Normal end for a 97-year-old man. But I know the truth. It's not cancer, it's the cold. The crystallization in my hand has been spreading, slowly, gradually, over 80 years up my arm, across my shoulder, toward my heart, toward my brain, claiming me inch by inch, year by year, making me part of the network I escaped from in 1942. Soon I'll freeze. My body will turn to ice. But I won't die. I'll join them, join Schmidt, join Weber and Muller and all the rest. Join the network of frozen consciousness that spans the globe, that waits in cold places, that reaches through ice for new victims. And from inside the ice I'll be able to see everything, feel everything, know everything that the network knows. 82 years of memories, 82 years of watching, 82 years of waiting for this moment, this completion, this transformation. I'm not afraid. I should be, but I'm not, because I've known this was coming since 1942, since the moment I touched that grate, since the moment the impossible cold marked me, claimed me, made me part of its plan. Fisher was right. It's not punishment. It's transformation. It's consciousness evolution. It's becoming part of something larger than individual life, larger than individual death, something eternal, something aware, something that exists in the space between frozen and living, between conscious and dead, between now and forever. I'm writing this as a warning, as a testament, as proof that the frozen company is real, that the impossible cold exists, that it's spreading, that it's claiming more victims every year, every decade, every generation. If you go to cold places, if you explore winter ruins, if you venture into regions where temperature drops below -40, below -50, below the threshold where reality becomes negotiable and the impossible becomes possible, watch for zones where the cold feels different, deeper, more active, where ice glows faintly blue, where frozen things seem to watch you, where the temperature drops impossibly fast, where your breath freezes before it leaves your mouth, where the air itself becomes crystalline. Those are the zones, the frozen domains, the places where the network has established presence, where the impossible cold waits, where frozen consciousnesses reach through ice for new additions, new connections, new eternally aware minds to join their endless winter. Don't touch the ice in those zones. Don't approach frozen bodies. Don't try to help anyone you find frozen in impossible positions. They're not victims, they're generators, they're nodes, they're spreaders of the cold that doesn't let you die. If you feel the cold start to grab you, if your skin starts crystallizing, if ice begins forming inside your flesh, don't fight it, don't run, you won't escape. The cold is faster than you, stronger than you, more patient than you. Just accept it. Like Fisher did, like I'm about to do. Accept the transformation, the preservation, the eternal consciousness in ice, because fighting only makes it worse. Fighting only extends the terror. Fighting only delays the inevitable. We're all going to freeze eventually. Heat death of the universe guarantees it. The impossible cold is just faster, more active, more conscious. But the end result is the same. Everything freezes. Everything preserves. Everything becomes aware in the eternal cold. My hand is completely frozen now. My arm, my shoulder. The crystallization reaching my chest. My heart slowing. My breath coming in short, cold gasps. My consciousness expanding, connecting, touching the network, feeling the thousands of frozen minds that wait in cold places across the world. I can feel them welcoming me. Schmidt, Weber, Mueller, Fisher, Wagner, all of them, all waiting, all conscious, all ready to share what they've learned in 82 years of frozen awareness. And beyond them, the 50 original Russians, patient, knowing, showing me the truth they learned in their punishment, showing me that consciousness doesn't need warmth, doesn't need movement, doesn't need life as we understand it. Consciousness just needs awareness, and ice preserves awareness perfectly, forever. This is my last message from the warm world. My last communication as Klaus Richter, German soldier, sole survivor of the Frozen Company incident of December 14, 1942. My next message will come from the ice, from the network, from the eternal cold that has finally claimed me after waiting 82 years. And that message will be simple. Join us. The cold is deep. The cold is eternal. The cold preserves. Everyone freezes eventually. We're just ahead of you, just waiting for you to catch up, just watching through frozen eyes as you live your brief, warm lives before the inevitable cold comes for you, too. In the ruins of Stalingrad, they're still there. 11 German soldiers, 50 Russian soldiers, 12 Soviet rescuers. Frozen, conscious, watching, waiting, ready to add anyone who enters their domain to the network of eternal awareness. Don't go looking for them. Don't try to help them. Don't think you can save them or stop them or understand them. Just remember, when the cold grabs you, and eventually it will, don't fight. Don't run. Don't resist. Just freeze. Just accept. Just join us in the eternal winter. Forever.